Shabbat shalom. As we all take in the news of the Supreme Court's decision depriving American women's right to control their bodies, I want to share some personal stories about pride from the perspective of an ally and understand that state by state, we can make a difference despite this setback. And the work will have to be done now, state by state. And we have to not lose hope nor confidence that we can bring change. I've loved the emails I've gotten from different Jewish organizations saying, everybody take a breath. Take that breath again, you guys. Now think of it. When we think about pride, I want us to think about how far we've come in the last few years. We've made progress that at certain points I never believed would have been possible. And yes, as we know, how far we have yet to go. There's much to be proud of, but we can't let our guards down because that progress, whenever you make progress among certain groups, ask our African American allies, then you come under attack. And extremists who see an anti-LGBTQ plus expression as an opportunity to normalize their hate, well, they remind me as if I'm hearing echoes of Weimar Germany in this country, when groups with monikers like the Proud Boys, similar to Hitler's brown shirts, accused of being part of the plan to attack the Capitol on January 6th. Well, they were just 25 miles from this bima a fortnight ago, trying to attack a drag queen public library children's book reading, as if they could stop freedom and be popular for doing so. If we've learned anything in the last century, we should know that oppressing LGBTQ plus people, like oppression against Jews, it's a canary in the coal mine of democracy. So let us be clear that the attempts to bring about a stop of the progress, it's not just on the extreme. You can see from today that it's seeping into the mainstream conservative political expression. We're all going to read carefully Justice Thomas's statement as he supported the decision of the court, saying that, well, maybe we need to take a second look at the laws that brought about equal marriage and contraception as well. In the face of such advocacy of judicial activist discrimination, really ultimately promoting one religious perspective in this country over another, and in the face of hate on the part of the extreme, we can't be passive, we can't be silent, but we can still move forward and take our stand and not forget that we're actually in the majority of Americans who want to promote these rights. And state by state, we can make a difference. Im tirtzu ein zo agada, Theodore Herzl wrote in his first book, if you will it, it's no dream. And that teaching reminds me, as Herzl knew, about the power of the collective when you're determined. And yes, you're going to meet challenges along the way. I'm going to go back to 2009. At my previous pulpit, Rabbi Beth and I worked in Seattle, Washington, at Temple Beth Am. And we offered our facility then as a meeting place for gay religious leaders to gather as they were working on equal marriage opportunities in the state. As an ally, I popped in to greet them. And then, in my perhaps inelegant way, which is my norm of being, I said, folks, we can't just talk. We can't just send letters to the editor. Let's get out there. pro-marriage equality clergy, we shouldn't be in the closet either. Let's march down the streets of Seattle, downtown, as a united interfaith group and call out the others. Counter the perception that the right wing has promoted that they're the majority, this anti-gay view, but that we're really the majority in this city and in this state. I left the room. There was a lot of talk, and actually they organized the march. And a few weeks later, a few hundred of us, primarily clergy, walking with a chuppah at the front, marched for gay marriage down the streets of downtown Seattle. And I got to carry the sign, which I've kept all these years, as I walked with the Episcopal Dean of the church through that town. Now, Reinhold Niebuhr taught in one of my most influential books I read in college, Moral Man and Immoral Society, that when you open your mind to the humanity of those whom you see as the other, when you meet them and experience them in person as a fellow human being, you're transformed. I'm going to go back even further. It was 1998. My first contract at the synagogue in Seattle was up. I told the president before I would renew that I'd begin performing gay marriages on the bima in the sanctuary there, whether legal or not. And this very liberal guy, back then, was taken aback, wasn't sure about it. I wrote about it in the congregational newsletter, and wouldn't you know it, that the first test couple to step forward, they weren't the ones you want to be your model. The brassy lesbian choir member who people found annoying asked me, "Will you do our wedding?" And I couldn't say no. I got ready, and then I didn't realize that she then, Jane Vosk, she invited the entire congregation to come to the wedding. And that day, the synagogue was filled to the brim. It was a beautiful, holy moment. A leader who opposed my stand came up afterwards and cried on my shoulder, exclaiming, this liberal person who opposed gay marriage, now I understand. And that day, the temple changed for good. Finally, in Pirkei Avot, Hillel said, if I'm not for myself, who am I? If I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? Our work for marriage equality led to one of the proudest moments of my career. The Washington State House and Senate decided to take up the question of the right to gay marriage. It was now 2012, and I was asked to testify there in the Senate. The testimony was broadcast. I appeared right after the Catholic Archbishop, who spoke out against the bill, saying, any attempt to redefine marriage ignores the origin, purpose, and value of marriage. And then I got to go up after this guy and say, I can't have the state infringe of my religious liberty as our Jewish community believes it's our sacred obligation to sanctify these same-sex relationships under the law of marriage. The Senate committee chair then declared, clearly there's a religious disagreement here. He didn't know the word for machloket. And we've got to take religion out of this. And so they kicked us out. A month later, they passed the marriage equality bill inside the House and Senate. It passed. But then the opponents of us put the measure on the ballot. And so our synagogue, along with many other houses of worship, sprung into action. We became a phone bank center, working thousands of calls in its favor. And on election day, Washington State voted with a 57% majority to stop oppressing LGBTQ plus citizens, and equal marriage was realized. We have to understand, we're going to stand up for the woman's right to choose. The battle will be in the states, and too many of us as liberals have ignored the states and focused on the national. And we're learning what we can do. Rabbi Tarfon said, it's not ours to complete the work, neither are we free to desist from it. Despite our progress, we see today how fragile freedom is. All the work that we've done to achieve these rights, they're under attack. And the attack is from the state. When a community bans children's books in which the main character is two fathers or mothers, they're using state power to sow the seeds of oppression. Did you know that one of the books banned in the state of Florida has this title? The Purim Superhero. Because the child in the book has two dads. In Florida, they're banning books on Purim in the 21st century. Well, when you teach kids or teachers, they can't say gay to children because they're too young. The state's creating a second-class citizenry in this country. It's denying the vision that all of us are created equal. And we know it's not a big jump from oppressing LGBTQ plus people to doing the same to people of color, Jews, Muslims, API Americans. And today what do we learn? And women too. Those Proud Boys would like to be protesting right in front of the synagogue too, believe you me. I know that some of us may be tired of always having to struggle. We wonder why when we win a right, do you have to keep defending it? Well, isn't that what Moses learned at Mount Sinai? You have to keep carrying the Torah forward. You can't give up as you're bringing the good forward. The holy needs you to be strengthened and keep carrying it forward. And in the Parsha this week, the Israelites go into the promised land. They send the spies in, and they come back with reports that it's a beautiful place, but it's filled with giants who might prevent us from realizing our dream. And Caleb says, we can overcome them. But the people live in fear. And they end up spending 40 years in the wilderness because they got tired of the struggle. Well, we've made amazing progress. There's so much reason for pride. And we have to keep doing the work. We have to keep struggling because freedom is a benefit that needs constant guarding. All of us as minorities understand there's always someone trying to take away your rights. But when we stand together and we stand for justice and hope and for goodness and for our moral values, we don't stand alone. Read the statistics. Most Americans want to support the right to choose and the right to equal marriage. When we work little by little, state by state, then nationally, when we're united for something good, and that good, like anything, is possible. They're not giants. I don't care if they're wearing robes. They're bullies. But with our voice together, we can stand up and push them back. Shabbat shalom, everyone.